form of reprimand. Staff transfer should address issues such as staff service balance, leave, and staff development, among other positive reasons, as guided by Section 43.
Thank you. Thank you. So then, it cannot be said that that advisory was targeting the governor or the county secretary, because the advisory was from the county secretary himself.
Yes, I can see it is from the acting CEC, Meru County Public Service Board County Secretary, acting as County Secretary, to all chief officers.
Thank you. So it is chief officers who are discouraged from those kind of deployments without consultation with the county secretary.
Yes.
So that cannot bar the county secretary from exercising his right.
Yes.
Thank you. We have also been told that the letter appearing at page 295, quickly let us look at that letter. Is a letter of employment. To the best of your understanding, what is the title of that letter?
Redeployment.
Redeployment. What is your understanding of redeployment?
Redeployment is taking one person from one department maybe to another one, or from one duty to another one.
Is employment done for many persons in one letter, or it is done individually, if it were really an employment?
This is done for so many people in one letter.
In one letter.
Yes.
Is any of those people a new person that is not yet working with the county government of Meru?
All these have been working since even 2016, 2015 as directors and other senior officers in the government of Meru.
Is there anywhere where the salaries or remuneration of those persons is mentioned?
There is nowhere that is mentioned.
Normally, a letter of employment would have their salaries.
Yes, it should be the case.
It would also have the terms of reference.
Yes.
Does that appear anywhere in that?
It doesn't appear.
It doesn't appear.
Yes.
So in your evidence, does that amount to employment?
It doesn't amount to employment.
Is there anything that bars the county secretary from making changes within inter-departments within the county?
Nothing bars the county secretary from doing redeployment.
Thank you. You have been referred to what is now being said to be monies that were not accounted for. And by that, council took you to page 13 of their documents to indicate that monies appearing in the infamy system were not accounted for. Page 2, page 13, and the total amount is said to be 2.7 million that were allegedly paid to Rose Kinyua Wantai.
Yes.
That is a line of cross-examination. Confirm to us that this document that appears from page 1 all through to page 16 does not portray the IFMIS extract, but a mere complaint by one Salesio Mutuma.
This is a mere complaint by Duranera Salesio Mutuma.
The table that bears the total of 2.7 is not from the IFMIS extract, isn't it?
It is not from the IFMIS extract.
Thank you. When you look at the charges that you faced, was there anywhere where any specific amount was mentioned that was received by any of the people termed as your relatives that you are supposed to explain why they received such monies? Specifically, figures.
No specific figure.
Thank you. That will be all for this witness, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now move on. And
perhaps I can ask just one more question with your leave, okay, Madam Speaker. Thank you. So, Governor, then, what would you plead the Senate to do, having heard the case from the County Assembly, having given your evidence, what is it that you ask this Honorable House to do for you?
Madam Speaker, humbly I would request this Honorable House, a constitutional house, to see, as we have heard all the allegations that are labeled before me, I'm appearing as third, fourth, fifth party in all these accusations. It is my humble request that as you sit as judges, I'm forced to answer allegations that are done or some issues that are not directly involving the governor of Meru. In these allegations, there is nowhere, Honorable Madam Speaker, that I have signed any document nor delegated anyone to any person via the allegations tabled today before this Honorable Senate. Madam Speaker, today, I don't count it as an unfortunate day for me because at least the whole world have known the truth. I urge this Honorable Senate, honorable members, as you sit today, to consider and give justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and that will be the close of our case.
Thank you, Counsel. We now move on to the clarifications by senators, and I request that strictly we adhere to the 2 minutes so that we give as many senators opportunity, maximum 2 minutes, and we begin with the Senator Sigei. This session will end at 7:50, as I had said earlier. Yeah, it's about 20 minutes. Senator Sigei, when you're done, please approach the bench.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm troubled with three things. I'll ask three clarifications, and this one is to the Counsel for the Governor, alias Mutuma. Number one, I want to get your response, in particular to the allegation with regards to a gentleman by the name Nefat, whose employment dates back to 2016, employed at Job Group H. In 2023, acted in Job Group R, and the document that we've been given appearing at page 384 of the County Assembly's bundle from the County Public Service Board. I would wish to get your responses, Counsel. Two, witness number 3, I can't recall the name, is called Mr. Munene Nganata, sorry. At paragraph 13 of his affidavit, he made reference to employees whose position at the time of employment was cleaners, and a document which has been submitted as evidence before the House appearing at page 407 and 374. The responses that will clear my mind will probably be that coming from you, because what Mr. Nganata responded to as he was asked is not clear to me. And lastly, your position with regard to a number of videos which entertained this House on oathing. On the one hand, there was an element of some
Senator Sotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to direct this clarification to the Counsel for the County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, there seems to be some disparities in the document submitted by the County Assembly in relation to the invitation letter to China. The document submitted by the County Assembly on page 60 differs in content from the document submitted by the Governor on page 425 of the bigger document of evidence. But when you look at the two documents keenly, Mr. Speaker, the document for the County Assembly does not refer to the other assignments the county government went to do in China, that is housing and agriculture. But another document attached on page 68 of the County Assembly bundle confirms that actually housing and agriculture was one of the functions. So my concern, which I want clarification from the Council for the County Assembly, is to explain the deviation in the two letters, the letter by the Governor and the letter by the County Assembly, and explain to this House which letter is the correct letter to go with.
Council for the Governor, proceed to respond to the question as asked by Senator Sigei, and then the Council for the County Assembly, you will respond to the question raised by Senator Osotsi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. In answer to the question posed by Senator Sigei, my understanding of job grouping is that the position to which a person is appointed then dictates the job group they will fall to. So one would rise from one job group based on the new position that they have been given. Indeed, my understanding is that we've had chief officers appointed as CCMs, therefore necessitating the change of their job groups. That would be my simple answer to that question. I'll invite my friend, Mr. Mutembei, to answer the other question on the cleaners. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to respond to the question from Senator Sigei. The question was asking why some cleaners appear to be categorized as senior support staff in the payslips that have been produced in the bundle of documents by the County Assembly. Although the witness, notwithstanding the fact that the witness confirmed that the payslips cannot be authenticated, it is the position that cleaners are actually support staff. And cleaners would be categorized as senior support staff based on their salary. If you look at the payslip that has been produced, the one that appears as senior support staff is earning a basic salary of 18,000, and that is in tandem with the role of a senior support staff. That would be the simple answer. Thank you.
Council for County Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, the question was as to discrepancies between the letter at page 425 of the Governor's Bundle and the letter at page 60 of the Assembly's Bundle. It is indeed true, Mr. Speaker, that there are discrepancies, and that's why we have kept telling you the Governor has forged the document she has presented to you, and here's why. If you check the document at page 60 of the Assembly's Bundle, you will note, Mr. Speaker, it bears the stamp of the county government, received by the county government on 25th of April. The one the governor has produced is not stamped by our own county government. That's one indication of what we call forging of documents. And if there is any other doubt, Mr. Speaker, when you go to page 68 of our BADO, the county secretary, when they wrote to the ministry, they attached the letter inviting them to China. And the letter the county secretary attached is the version that the county assembly has produced, and it is attached at page 69 of our BADO with the same stamp. And it is our submission, therefore, the governor must have forged this document, as we have been saying all along, at page 425 of our BADO.
Senator Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to the governor in relation to Okolea. So, Governor, who funds Okolea? And if you may, because it's in public domain, that the activities of Okolea were once banned by the Minister or CS for Interior, why, in your view, was it banned? Number two, Mr. Speaker, the image that has been portrayed of the relationship between the governor and the county assembly members has been very rosy, especially after the past impeachment proceedings. Governor, where and why did the reins start beating you, as in the relationship between you and the members of the county assembly? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those are my questions.
Governor, proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Okolea program, as I said before, has been there for the last 12 years. It is purely funded by Baite Family Fellowship, where I'm the bishop. All the offerings that we get from the church, the pastors and the members of the church take all the money, buy blankets, mattresses. I also donate 50% of my salary towards the Okolea program. It is purely a program by the church and my family, funded by the donations made in our church, and my 50% contribution from my salary. The issue of banning the Okolea, it is just the other day when we had one at Igembe, where my deputy governor incited the youth, as you saw in the video, slaughtered the cow that was supposed to be donated to a poor woman. There was some chaos. And then from that event is where now the CS came and said, because of the unrest in Meru, he has to ban the Okolea until there is rest in Meru. It was not banned permanently. I think for his own wisdom, he decided and acted so that you get peace and continue as a church. It is purely a church program. From the day I left this Senate during the first impeachment, we've been working well with the county assembly members until the last 2 months, when people, external forces, tried or are trying to interfere with the leadership just because of 2027 politics. That is the whole truth. And as I stand here, I know that the members of county assembly have no issues with the governor, apart from the external forces, forcing them to cause a lot of confusion in Meru for those who have decided that they will run for the position of county governor to have space and have a route via the deputy governor or via making it that Meru doesn't work. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Governor, I was just wondering, in the event that the Senate finds you that none of the allegations for the second time made against you have been substantiated, I'm just wondering what happens to the Meru County? How do you plan to work with the deputy governor who has been alleged, and of course you have stated and accused him of having planning to impeach you and also plotted all the current activities and impeachment? So how do you plan to work with them? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The first action, I believe prayer works. I will continue to pray for those that are a lot of appetite to become the governor, God to lower the appetite so that we have time to work the people of Meru. Number two, the time we left this place again, it took us just a month for us to come together and start working. It is very possible, it is very doable that we can still mend all the differences and put Meru first rather than our own interest. As a woman of God, I will forgive everyone.
Thank you, Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is the first time it's happening in Africa. That's where we can measure up where we really are.
Acaba velha ficou aconselha.
Enyimba is Nigeria.
I want Mamelodi Sundowns to conquer Africa.
Angola style is fighting and very fast players.
Tepe Mazembe ni ekipe ishakufanya histoire monde mzima. عندنا طاقات كبيرة، عندنا طاقات لعابة كبار.
سيمباز تنزانيا.
أي بطولة هي بالنسبة لنا بتبقى أهم بطولة.
The Institution of Engineers of Kenya with partners invites you to the 30th IEK International Convention to be held from 14th to 17th November 2023 at Pride in Paradise Resort, Mombasa. The theme of the convention is Engineering a New World. Over 4,000 delegates across all sectors in the engineering fraternity are expected to attend both physically and virtually. Register, attend, learn, network. You can't afford to miss out. Follow this event live on KBC.
Are you coming towards...
This was a clique, an inner circle clique of the governor, which was used to pilferage money from the county treasury in the name of interest or prepayments. The other clique was a group of officers working under the office of the chief of staff. Collectively, this group of people swindled an amount of 78 million shillings over a period of 1 financial year. The interest, the IFMIS data which has been produced, if you do a total computation, and this amount of money has not been disputed, none of the witness from the governor's side has disputed the totality of this amount. What they have done is that they have only submitted evidence to justify an amount or to account for an amount of 2 million only. What they have not done, they have not brought evidence to justify the balance of the 70 million. This group, the first clique, was responsible for 6.5 million shillings. The other group, that is the chief of staff and his officers, they were responsible for the balance of the amount. And in that group, you'll find a person, I'll just single out the individual, by the name Kawira Mwangaza. Individually, over a period of 1 year, she was paid in form of prepayments an amount of 21.8 million shillings. We have sat here for 2 days. No document is in front of you justifying that payment. Nobody has disputed whether this payment was withdrawn from the county treasury. Nobody. No documents in form of a payment voucher, an interest warrant has been submitted to justify. There has been a deliberate attempt to distort the story and to focus the attention of the Senate to the interest. And the narrative is this amount of money was being paid as a form of facilitative interest for the governor's entourage. Can a governor's entourage collect a totality of 78 million? The amount of money which has been accounted for is only 2 million shillings. Where are the documents? Where are the vouchers? And when we asked, when the assembly requested for the documents through their summoning powers, they were told that the documents are with the Auditor General. And in the letter which is in the document, which is in the bundle of document, indicates that the documents are being used for preparation of financial statements. Everybody who has got elementary accounting knows very well that you don't generate financial statement using vouchers. Financial statements are generated using cash books and ledgers. And even if these documents were taken to the Auditor General, where is the delivery book? No evidence has been submitted to show where that amount of money to support that expenditure. And in absence of such document to controvert this allegation, we do most humbly submit that this allegation of investment of funds has been proved. On their defense, what they attempted to do, they submitted documents here, a bundle of documents, which we have raised issues about its authenticity. We do submit that these documents were afterthought. They were generated ex post. They were ex post creations to justify those two, and they were not, in the attempt to justify, they only justified 2 million shillings. When they had an onerous obligation of justifying 78 million. Those documents were not signed, they were not examined, they did not comply to elementary accounting standards applicable to any accounts department in a public institution. So we do ask the Senate to disregard that defense which has been put forward and know that 70 million shillings, as we sit here today, has not been accounted. They had the obligation, they had the responsibility of calling in the chief officer finance. They had the obligation, they had the opportunity to call in the CC finance. They had at their disposal the entire county treasury to come and explain those amounts of money. They have not, and for that reason, we do submit that this allegation, that is count 1, has been proved. I'll swiftly move and quickly to the other parts of the other count. The next count is count 2, that is nepotism and related unethical practices. We do submit again that this count has been substantiated and proved. This count involved fraudulent, two violations. I'll just pick up two violations because of the interest of time. One was fraudulent misrepresentation of the governor's relatives as technical team. When the governor received an invitation to go to China, to visit China and do a benchmarking on a cancer machine, instead of governor sending a technical team, that is a top-notch oncologist or other technical team, the governor decided to send members of the same clique, which was made up of our relatives. 2 sisters, 1 brother. These are the team which was the inner team. This is a team which was sent to China. And you look at the documents which were presented to the Ministry of Devolution, there was apparent misrepresentation by the county secretary that these are technical officers. These are technical team. And the document is there. You have been shown the document. And we do submit that an argument has been raised here that no public funds was lost. But the County Assembly of Meru states that an opportunity was lost. Those who have done accounting or maybe economics, I think it is in economics, there's something called opportunity cost. The cost of not doing something. The cost of not doing something. That is the cost which was incurred by the County of Meru, and there was that violation of misrepresentation. The letter was addressed to the governor. The governor cannot run away, as my colleague, Mr. Mudomi, has said, and say it was not me. The letter was addressed to the governor. She minuted it to the officers, and the officers went ahead and misrepresented those members of the clique as county technical officials. The other violation in this particular count is the designation of Nefad Kinyua, who is a member of the clique. This is a clique which had access, power, and influence. And the clique involved the sisters, 2 sisters, and the brothers. It's a one which runs Meru today. So Nefad Kinyua, in order to reward him, when he was in a small job group without competitive process, and the governors admitted in cross-examination that his appointment was not sanctioned by the County Public Service Board, it has been admitted. Kinyua was appointed as a director, external linkages, without a transparent and competitive recruitment process. We do submit that count 2 has also been substantiated and proved. I'll move quickly again because of the time we have been given. Of course, it's so difficult to condense all the evidence which have been given within the short period of time which I have, but I'll try my best. The third count is count 3. That is bullying, vilification, and demeaning other leaders. Chapter 6 of the Constitution was not made in vain. The Chapter 6 of the Constitution operates with other laws. Principles key above them is Public Officers Ethics Act and the Leadership and Integrity Act. If you look at those provisions of the law, and those are the ones we have said the governor violated, I'll direct the Senate to Section 9B of the Public Officers and Ethics Act, which states that a state officer shall not bully any person. It's there. There's also a call for professionalism within the Leadership and Integrity Act. There's also the professionalism means that a state officer shall treat the public and his fellow public officers, now these are public officers, with courtesy and respect. The aspect of acting through others has also been brought forward within those laws, and it makes it an offense for causing everything to be done through other persons. My colleague, Mr. Mudomi, has mentioned that the governor is now hiding, that it was not me, it was the county secretary. The county secretary has become the bogeyman. But the law, the drafters of the law knew very well that state officers and public officers who hold positions of powers will throw away responsibility. They'll shift responsibility to their juniors. And that's why the law says that you cannot run away from that responsibility. One of the violations under this particular count was actions against the deputy governor. I'll just bundle them to that. We've put several violations against the deputy governor. Key among them is that the governor made the deputy the governor made made a deputy the bogeyman, the symbol of hatred in Meru. And by that, she orchestrated a well-organized campaign to vilify the deputy governor and excluded him from performance and discharge of public duties. That is, attending CC's meetings and performing and discharging all the other functions. Evidence has been adduced. Sufficient evidence has been adduced demonstrating how these actions were perpetrated. The Hansard of the County Assembly, their letters by the Deputy Governor, writing, beseeching the Deputy President of this Republic, beseeching the Chair of the Council of Governors, to the Speaker of the Senate, asking for reconciliation, asking for these institutions to facilitate a reconciliation between her and between him and the boss, that is the governor. There are memos which you have submitted demonstrating whereby the deputy governor is asking for simple facilitations like repairs for his cars, fuel for his car, staff, and the like. We do submit that this violation, this specific violation, has been demonstrated. What the governor has done has turned the battle on the deputy governor. Instead of justifying or explaining, now the deputy governor has become even the author of these impeachment proceedings. They have created a narrative around the deputy governor. Evidence has been adduced to support the vilification of the deputy governor in form of WhatsApp messages where the governor proceeded to engage in cyberbullying. Cyberbullying in WhatsApp. The governor is on a WhatsApp group, and there she has not disputed those screenshots. She has not disputed authenticity, the context of those screenshots. You can see the governor posting and talking about, and the DG mobilized fewer levies. Some people will find a way of defecating avocado seed. It's there. She has admitted that she has admitted that. Another posting, he thinks I'm the type of person who can be scared. That's a governor. And this is on a WhatsApp forum or WhatsApp group which consists public members, members of the public, senior officers of the county, junior officers of the county, and here it is the governor now vilifying a fellow state officer, which is in clear breach and violation of the provisions of the Leadership and Integrity, Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and the Public Officers Ethics Act. The other violation which falls under this particular account is that, and this is a violation which was there, and this is a violation which was before this House in the previous impeachment proceedings. That is, the governor has persistently been making demeaning public utterances against other elected leaders. Apart from the deputy governor, who was the bogeyman, who was a center of attack by the governor had other leaders at her crosshairs. Those are the elected leaders of Meru. All of them, the 12 of them, including the member of the Senate, the women rep, and the elected members. And this one was done through falsely accusing them of cartelism. The governor has grouped these leaders into one group and calls them a cartel. And this one, evidence has been produced or adduced before this House in form of videos. And I'll take you through one of the videos which has been played here about Wanyonge. Wenye wivu, wajinyonge. And you can see the spouse of the governor playing a guitar and the governor behind dancing. And when the spouse talks about wenye wivu wajinyonge, she does it. So it's basically mocking the leaders and telling them you can do nothing. So that is kind of evidence which has been produced here. We've submitted that the issue of the governor's spouse has been a hot issue in Meru. What happened is that the governor provides the spouse with the platform. The spouse is used as the attack dog. Instead of the governor attacking these leaders directly sometimes, she uses the spouse to attack them through music and innuendos. The other video, which was submitted here, was during the presidential function in Larry, whereby the governor, it was played here, and the governor singled out the 10 leaders, and called them names, and falsely accused them of being members of cartel and trying to blackmail our regime. Honorable Speaker, we do submit that this count 3, that is bullying, vilification, and demeaning of other leaders, has been proved. Before I jump to that one, we brought a witness who is a member of parliament. That is Honorable Mugambi Ndikiri. He is the chair of the Meru, the members of parliament, and he explained to details the pain and suffering they have undergone as leaders by the action of the other members when they were vilified during the presidential meeting, when he felt insulted, demeaned, humiliated, when they had not provoked the governor. We do submit that this allegation has been substantiated. I'm moving quickly to my 4th count. The other count, Madam Speaker, the other count which was brought before this House, which we believe is something which this House needs to look at deeply, includes the violation of the law. Count 4 is illegal appointments and usurpation of statutory powers. The violations are there in the charge sheet, the specific laws which have been violated. I'll mention a few violations which are there. One is the illegal appointment of the chief officers. A chief officer, and a name has been brought, evidence has been adduced. That is on page 296 of our document, that is on volume 2. The appointment of Kenneth Riungu as chief officer without the approval of the county assembly. Honorable Senators and Mr. Speaker, the County Government Act, that is section 45, provides for appointments of chief officers and the method. The governor nominates from a list which has competitively been sourced by the County Public Service Board, and once the nomination has been undertaken, the name is forwarded to the Assembly for vetting under the provisions of the Public Office, that is the County Assembly's Public Approval Act. This particular chief officer, nobody has disputed his appointment. Nobody has said here, the governor, the witnesses, nobody has said that Kenneth Mwiti Riungu has not been appointed or does not discharge the functions of the chief officer. This evidence has been produced. We do submit that the appointment has been produced, the evidence of the appointment has been produced in form of the letter dated 23rd August 2023, which contain a list of appointments which the governor made. And in that list, you will see the name of Kenneth Riungu being appointed as a chief officer. The County Assembly of Meru has never vetted this particular individual, and this particular individual still discharges the functions of a chief officer in Meru. This is a violation of section 45 of the County Government Act. The other appointment was the acting appointment of chief officers. Mr. Speaker, the same letter contains the names of several chief officers who were appointed. That is Edwin Mutuma Murangiri, Kenneth Gitobu Nikata. These were appointed as acting chief officers without the requisite competitive recruitment and recommendations by the County Public Service Board. Evidence has been produced in form of a memo by the County Public Service Board warning the chief officers against making acting appointments without the authority of the County Public Service Board. And the County Public Service Board, in the same letter, in the same memo, says any appointments made without the approval or without the authority of the County Public Service Board, such appointments shall be null and void. These individuals, the governor has admitted that these were directors. We found them there as directors, and they appointed them as acting chief officers. Mr. Speaker, I've never, in my history, in my brief history in life, that is, I've never seen a director being appointed a permanent, that is a principal secretary. In case there's a vacancy in the office of a principal secretary, one of the principal secretaries doubles in that particular office, because the appointment for that particular office is special and specific. You cannot pluck in an individual from the ground and you make that particular individual an acting chief officer. So this one is a demonstration that the governor usurped the powers of the County Public Service Board and made this illegal and irregular appointments. Of course, there was the issue of appointment of traffic marshals. That violation has been demonstrated. The County Public Service Board, in their letters, they are very clear that they have not approved such appointments. They have demonstrated the same, but in the bundle of document, you can see the same traffic marshals wearing uniform, riding motorcycles, and the governor posting on WhatsApp that these are going to be the frontline officers to make Meru the next city. Who appointed them? The governor circumvented the powers and functions of the County Public Service Board and by herself appointed these particular individuals. The other appointment, the other violation was in regard to with regard to sending the 4 CEOs of the corporation, that is the parastatals in Meru. That is Dr. Ntoiti, the CEO of County Revenue Board, Paul Mwaki, who testified here, the CEO of Liquor Board, Kenneth Kimathi, the managing director. These are CEO of statutory corporations. They're employees of the boards. They're not the employees of the governor. What the governor did, through the county secretary, of course, they were sent on compulsory leave with pay. It only took the intervention of court after 1 year. That's when they have resumed their duties. The boards are the ones which recruit. The boards are the ones with the statutory powers to suspend or exercise disciplinary control over their CEOs. It is not the governor crossing over. I've never seen it in this country where a head of a parastatal, the CEO of a parastatal, when there is a duly constituted board, is sent home by State House. Maybe this one is new. The other one, the other violation is this particular one. Those are the violations. We do submit that this is the second time the governor is still being accused of usurping the powers and functions of the board. And with respect to count 4, Speaker, we do submit that the count has been proved. The last 2 counts, which I'm going to move quickly, is contempt of court. Evidence has been submitted here. How, despite the existence of court orders from Nyeri Employment and Labor Relations Court, the governor for 1 year disregarded those orders. And what the court has done, the court has convicted the governor. As we sit here today, the governor of Meru is a convict. She has already been convicted for contempt of court. That is a violation of Article 181(1)(b) of the Constitution, whereby, which constitutes a ground that where there is a, which provides that where there is a serious reason to believe in that a county governor has committed a crime under the national law. The governor has already been convicted by the High Court in Meru. She's only awaiting sentence. She has not discharged the conviction. She has not appealed the conviction. That ground has already been proved. That is contempt of court. The last, the other one, of course, was illegal naming of the road. That one is okay. That one, we have said it's there. The evidence has been produced. The governor has been shown the Facebook posting whereby she's naming the road in the name of her husband. Lastly, I'll take the last one is contempt of the assembly. Madam Speaker, Section 22 of the County Assembly Powers and Privileges Act provides an impeachable ground for anybody who is a public officer who violates, who dishonors the summons of the assembly. The governor was invited to appear before the committee of the county assembly. And what she did, when she was invited, she wrote back a letter and said, there is no provision of the law which requires the governor to appear before the committee of the assembly. Yet, Article 195 of the Constitution is very clear that a county assembly or any of its committees can require, can invite, can summon, the word is summon anybody to appear before the committee to provide evidence or to give information. Section 18 of the County Assembly Powers and Privileges Act provides, enacts the same provision and uses the word any person. When the governor, our officers were invited, when the governor specifically was invited, her defense was that the assembly goes to the High Court, files a constitutional case, seeks a constitutional interpretation whether the governor can be invited, can be summoned to appear before the assembly. Yet the constitution uses the word any person. At section 22 says that where the assembly passes a resolution against an individual for violating that particular provision, that shall constitute a ground for removal from office. And that's why you see this ground, and Honorable Sifuna asked it, what is the contempt of county assembly, whether it constitutes a violation. That is the only violation I've ever seen in law whereby it makes it an impeachable ground for violating, for failing to honor the summons of the county assembly. The assembly can pass a resolution and request and impeach you. And that is what the county assembly of Meru has done. And we do submit that this count, together with the other 6 counts, have been substantiated. The assembly has demonstrated the same. And finally, my colleague Mr. Mudomi has mentioned about, is the governor individually liable for that particular violation? She has said all these things were done by the county secretary. He has mentioned about the provisions of section 30, subsection 3. Section 30 or subsection 3 of the County Government Act, which will be my last section. That way, I just want to repeat what you have said. Section that talks about the governor shall be accountable for the management and use of county resources. The governor cannot run away and say, I was not the one. It was done by this officer. It was done by the county secretary. The law places the accountability at the hand of the governor. So the governor of Meru cannot run away from these allegations and say that they were done by others, that it was not her. Mr. Speaker, with that, I rest my case.
The counsel for the governor, you may now proceed to make your closing statement. You have exactly 1 hour, starting now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and thank you, distinguished senators. My name, for the record, is Elisha Ongoya. I'll be making the governor's final submissions. Mr. Speaker, sir, before I delve into the substantive part of my submissions, and because looking at the program of this House, this may be the last time I'm standing here to address on this matter, allow me, with great humility, to begin by thanking you, Mr. Speaker, and the distinguished senators who have given us audience despite the great time constraints that we have had to go through in making this case. I'll be failing in my responsibility for courtesy if I didn't thank the administrative staff, the secretariat staff of this Senate, who have given us significant support, both within this House and in the corridors of these precincts as we found our way around. Mr. Speaker, sir, at this juncture, allow me to proceed to the more substantive parts of the governor's closing submissions. Allow me to begin by pointing out that as a young Christian fellowshipping at Esrave Church of God deep in Vihiga County, and as a middle-aged Christian fellowshipping somewhere in Amalemba Church of God in Kakamega County, I have gathered some enduring lessons from Scripture and I would start by drawing inspiration from those lessons. The wise man who authored the book of Proverbs, at chapter 18, verse 17, guides us as follows when we are confronted with matters such as this. In a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward to cross-examine him. That ecclesiastical wisdom has found pragmatic rendition in these proceedings, as I will demonstrate shortly. Mr. Speaker, sir, the governor was presented in the opening remarks by the County Assembly's Council to this assembly, for lack of a better word, as some form of scoundrel. Fortunately, in this August House, both parties have had an opportunity to present documentary and electronic evidence. Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, when the history of this attempted impeachment of the governor of Meru County, Her Excellency Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, shall be authored, one word will be repeated in that historical text. That word is a Meru word, kibiri. I'm told, in its innocence, it is a stick that is used to stir porridge. Sadly, in that historical text that I've alluded to, that word will have no aura of innocence. I beg to pose the following questions to the hearts, the minds, and the conscience of these distinguished senators. Are we, in making a decision this evening, going to dignify the Kibiri movement that we have seen today by impeaching this governor? Are we, honorable distinguished senators, going to dignify the acts of Honorable Mpuru Waburi that you had occasion to watch today live by impeaching this governor? Honorable senators, are we today going to dignify the act of the honorable member for Buri constituency that we have seen today supporting the other acts of Mpuri Aburi that you had observed by impeaching this governor? Are we going to dignify the acts of the deputy governor for Meru County openly and in the company of the young people of this country that we ought to give proper moral guidance, calling a governor a prostitute? Are we going to dignify that person by impeaching this governor? The governor has been accused of being a leader who disrespects other leaders. Video clips of the alleged disrespect have allegedly been played here, including a song, Wenye Wivu wa Jinyonge. On the other hand, the governor has demonstrated to you the sins that have been committed against her by those very leaders she is accused of disrespecting. Distinguished senators, in good conscience, are you going to vote that this governor is a greater sinner than she has been sinned against? In good conscience. How many of us can reconcile our conscience, distinguished senators, with the fact that it is the men you saw today uttering the words you saw them utter and projecting the actions that you saw them project as against the governor that have actually come to this house to complain against that governor? I've heard of the claim of pots calling kettle black. I never knew in my living history I would come across a pragmatic rendition of what that means. Today was my answer. I invite you to have that reflection, distinguished senators. I have asked myself, I invite these distinguished senators to ask themselves, Mr. Speaker, sir, where did these leaders get the moral high ground to invite this house in view of the sins that they have committed against the governor, to find that the governor has sinned against them? Distinguished senators, technology has been deployed in these proceedings. We are beaming these proceedings live to the whole world by medium that will preserve them to eternity. How shall the members of this house, individually and collectively, account to their children and children's children that they ever dignified the acts of these people who have leveled a war against the governor by confirming the impeachment of the governor? We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the peace of conscience to make a decision that takes that into account. Choices have consequences, or so it is a truism. By impeaching this governor, if you so decide, the logical consequence is that that person you saw chanting with the young men of Meru, calling the governor a prostitute, would rise to the office of governor. Is that the desirable outcome you want out of your decision this evening, distinguished senators? Members of the County Assembly have brought the governor here. I speak the governor's heart. We do not begrudge them. They have the power to do that. They have exercised that power. Have they rightly exercised that power? Distinguished senators, that decision lies in your hand. You are told that the governor did not present the evidence that she has given before you to the County Assembly. Fortunately, this house is a house of record. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, you have fantastic rules of procedure that, of course, we can make better, as we have seen. And I would strongly recommend, hoping time will permit, that we relook at the timelines for impeachment of governors if we have to do absolute justice in terms of filings, in terms of argument of the case. These are reform issues because we are in continuous improvement as a society. But putting all factors on the scale, we have done well in presenting some records before this House. When you retire and before you vote tonight, I invite every senator to open volume number 4 of the County Assembly's documents and turn specifically to page number 146 off that volume and look at the conversation that is taking place at that page. This is the Hansard of the County Assembly of Meru of 25th October 2023. If you turn with me to page 146, you will see this conversation. Elias Mutuma, advocate for the governor, says, "Mine will be brief, but I will not proceed until we are given a ruling on the two issues raised by my seniors. We seek direction on how to table the evidence that we have and how we will get a ruling on the public participation." The governor is pleading to be given a chance to table her evidence. The Speaker, Honorable Ayub Bundi, says when your brother Omari was speaking, he mentioned a difference between honorable members and your team. He stated that he knows the division in this House and he cannot step on the other side. Anything you'd like to table in this House must go to the House Business Committee. You cannot do it when you're on that side. You must be on the side where the members are. I was wondering, Mr. Speaker, sir, how was Mr. Mutuma possibly supposed to get to the side where the members are? Was he supposed to organize a mini election in Meru County, become elected as senator for the temporary purpose of participating in these proceedings? I don't know. I am a career learner, and I learn every day. It is only allowed for honorable members. We are being told only honorable members are allowed to table evidence. You are not allowed to table evidence. We are going to make a reference to the Hansard systems because everything that you talk is being captured. You can proceed as the Speaker. The Speaker, we don't begrudge him. He had power to make a ruling. Mr. Speaker, just as you have power to make rulings here. Did he use that power correctly? That is the question I pose to the conscience of the men and women bestowed with the arduous responsibility of protecting devolved governance in this country, sitting in this House as distinguished senators. The conversation continues with Elias Mutuma, advocate for the governor, making an argument. My understanding, therefore, is that we will not lay the evidence that we have. The Speaker answers him, "How will you table it, Mr. Mutuma?" Mutuma is asking him, "You are the presiding officer in this House. Guide me on how to table." Mr. Mutuma is being challenged. How will you do it? You are not an MCA. That is why MCAs enter through the main door, and you entered through the back door. This was no longer differentiation. This was apartheid. Discrimination on the basis of the door you entered through. Whoever entered through the main door had a chance to table evidence. Whoever entered through any other door was denied a right to table evidence. Mr. Mutuma, exercising the persistence of a lawyer that we teach in law schools, continues. My hope is now pleading hope. My hope is that you will guide me on how we will lay the evidence that we have, because I'm a stranger in this House. The Speaker answers him, "We are going to rely on the Hansard system. As you talk, be aware that you are giving your evidence." He says, in desperation, "Well guided," a very well-trained lawyer. Whether you agree or disagree with the judge, you say most obliged. Well guided. May we then have a ruling before we proceed? Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, believe me or not, it is this assembly that has come here to ask you, why didn't they table their evidence before the assembly? We may agree or disagree with the governor on many things. We owe her a moral duty to be fair to her. The governor has been unfairly treated by the County Assembly of Meru, as demonstrated by the County Assembly's own records. And that is why we are here. You've been told in cross-examination, there are other women out there, Embu, Homa Bay, Nakuru, Kirinyaga. Are they also facing discrimination? Don't throw the gender card here. That's what the governor has been told in your hearing. Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, those things were said to the person you saw with your own eyes and felt with all your other senses, including the sense of hearing, being told what was going to be done to her by the Kibiri. Those things, those questions. One day, I will teach about the moral obligation of counsel in cross-examination, particularly when particular evidence is now available. Will this Senate, in good conscience, completely overlook the evidence of Honorable Mpuri Aburi in the presence of the Senator for Meru County, in the presence of the Deputy Governor of Meru County, in the presence of Honorable Mugambi Muridhania Rindikiri, demonstrating what they did with their hands holding the Kibiri against the governor? Shall we ignore that and say she's simply throwing a gender card? Shall we ignore the overwhelming evidence of the deputy governor chanting with youth in Meru, saying how the governor is a prostitute? Isn't that the locus classicus of a sexist remark? Will this Honorable Senate ignore the video clip that was played regarding that purported tree planting event at which no single seedling was seen being planted, but in which clear sexist remarks were made against the governor of Meru County? Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished senators, before you is a fellow citizen, sinned in the matter you have experienced with your own senses and presence, being brought to trial before you. Allow me now to proceed these conversations among yourselves. Ask yourself this question, number one. The governor before you faces a charge of usurping the roles of other agencies in the county, doing the work of other functionaries in the county. Same governor then faces other charges that requires her to take responsibility for the acts and omissions of other functionaries in the county. How will you, distinguished senators, reconcile your sense of logic to that case? When you retire in your private chamber, distinguished senators, reconcile this for me kindly, because I'm a career learner. The governor is accused of making payments to county employees who are named 4 in number. Those county employees, one of them steps here and says he is complaining that he was paid. He told you that yesterday. Then you will be confronted with evidence that he is the one who went to court to obtain an order to compel the county government to pay him. That person who is complaining. I've been struggling whether I'm a slow learner, good people. But I want you, in good conscience, to tell me If you sat in the shoes of this governor, how will you learn a lesson from that? Because this governor is a human being. She's not a perfect person. She can make mistakes. But she must be confronted by logical claims from which she can draw logical lessons to become a better leader. That's what we do in oversight institutions such as this. But if you confront this governor with this kind of contradictions, how does she sit with her team and tell them this is the program of action on how we can become better? Same governor is accused of disobeying a court order because that payment was delayed. And the act of purging was the payment must be made. While at that, and I'll reveal this issue later, I am glad that in front of me, including yourself, Mr. Speaker, sir, are honorable members of the Senate of Kenya who have served as governors. I have a plea to those particular ones. Please convey the message to your members in your deliberations of just how many cases the governor of your county, being you, was named as a respondent. If for each of those cases, the governor was to be brought here and be impeached, how many governors shall survive in this country? Is that even a sustainable way of oversighting counties? The office of governor is a standard respondent, so to speak, in virtually all claims made against the county government. At the end of it all, as was the case in the case of the 4 petitioners in Meru, a specific officer of the county government was singled out and told it was your duty, the county secretary. To ensure that these things are done, go back and comply and come back here to tell me you have complied. Shall we ignore that direction of the court? My learned colleague, Dr. Mudomi Thiankolu, has a legal philosophy called legal sophistry. Legal sophistry, according to Mudomi Thiankolu, is a process where people make technical legal arguments that technically make sense. But when you look at them substantively, they are unjust arguments. Sadly, he has advanced those arguments here today. We don't begrudge him. He is acting on his client's instructions. The Senate, you are to act on the instructions of the Constitution. Shall you buy into that legal sophistry, or shall you buy into the Constitution? Mr. Speaker, my side is not very good. When my 30 minutes reach and it's shown, I'll beseech that my attention be drawn to it so that I manage my time better. I know I still have some time.
Yeah,
Let me deal.
You have 35 minutes to go.
Thank you. That's consistent with what my chronometer is telling me. Let me deal with the Assembly's witnesses one by one. Arimi, Mwaki, Paul, you'll find the person who came before you denying the obvious fact that his salaries was paid pursuant to a court order, even when he is told to read the court order saying the salary be paid. You'll find him complaining that he was in fact paid, that is his grievance. Why did you pay me? You'll find him the person who went to court to get an order to be paid. You'll find him saying, although I'm complaining that I was paid, I did not return that money to the county government. You'll be told, impeach this governor on the strength of that evidence. He then plays a video clip of the county's first gentleman, apparently saying that some people will not be returned to work. His name is not mentioned in that clip. The governor is not present in that meeting. The person present in that meeting and not condemning those things is the deputy governor, the person whose case has been argued here more than the case of the county assembly. I sat here and I was shocked at how the county assembly's lawyers spent copious minutes arguing the case of the deputy governor than the case of the assembly. But as the person who was in that meeting, Paul Arimi, for the sake of this impeachment, is prepared to forgive the deputy governor who was present there. He's prepared to crucify the governor who is not seen in that clip. Allow me to engage with my views on Honorable Kawira Evans-Kara, the person who moved this impeachment motion. He has come here to tell you how Okolea Katoto Kameru is such a bad thing. You have seen his active role in Okolea Katoto Kameru up to August this year. You'll be told, impeach this governor on the strength of the testimony of that person. At some point, I asked my colleagues, what kind of people do these assembly members think senators are? Don't they have some residual respect for senators? Doesn't there come a time where you say, it's okay, I brought a very big case here, but I was misled. Now I am withdrawing limb 1, limb 2, limb 3, because I'm embarrassed by my own evidence. Let us focus on the following 2 issues so that we have time. They didn't do that. We don't begrudge them. We take confidence in the fact that this distinguished house is answerable to the Constitution and shall be faithful to the Constitution. Think about this, distinguished senators. Kawira Evans-Kara, Mheshimiwa, tells you that Nefat Kinyua is the governor's brother-in-law. He then invites you to take judicial notice of that fact. It is in the public domain. I don't know. If I had a chance to engage senators one by one, I would have asked Senator Khalwale, do you know that fact in the public domain? But I have no chance to get an answer to that. Good people, in legal practice, we take judicial notice of notorious facts. Facts like the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. Only a fool can counter-argue it. The fact that elections in this country were held on 9th of August 2020 is a notorious fact. No one can counter-argue it. To your utter consternation, at least mine, Kawira Evans-Kara is asking you to elevate the marital status of Nefat Kinyua to that and take judicial notice of it. Who do they take senators for? Will you buy into these distinguished senators? Even when confronted with evidence of a formal marriage certificate, he proceeds with his theory that his public domain hypothesis of the marriage of Nefat Kinyua outweighs that marriage certificate. I would have hoped that as people who have a duty to this Senate, the council who presented Evans Kawira here would have at least withdrawn that part of their claim to save us time. Now think about the minutes I'm spending arguing this fact. We have to do it because they have put it to us. They disrespect this Senate. That's why they're saying they must preoccupy your precious time with this issue to the wire. The star witness, Honorable Kawira Evans, then introduces an alleged relationship between the first gentleman and Edwin Murangiri. He calls Edwin a nephew to the first gentleman. He's then asked, okay, somebody's nephew ordinarily is the sister's son. What is the name of the mother of Edwin so that we can see whether he's a sibling? He says, I don't know. that name. Let me put it this way, honorable senators. This country inherited a common law tradition at the beginning of its legal system. We have shifted significantly from the common law tradition because of our transformative written constitution. In the old common law, there was the doctrine of parliamentary supremacy. In the new order, we have the doctrine of constitutional supremacy. But I say this, even in the traditions where parliament enjoyed supremacy, surely it had no power by fiat to impose relationships upon people. Tell somebody, this is your brother from today. This is your, you have been told to make that finding yourselves as Senate, that Edwin Murangiri is the nephew to the first gentleman. So what do you do when this man begins claiming inheritance from this family by virtue of your decision? Because these things have consequences. People will present this Hansard to courts in future to prove relationships. Shall we manage the aftermaths? These people did not respect this house. This witness insisted that county vehicles were destroyed in an Okolea event. We asked him, some senators asked him, vehicles in this country are identified by their registration numbers. There is no other method of identifying vehicles. I said, no, he has another method. Which is this method? The method is the affidavit of number 113748 PC Kevin Wafula is a method of recognizing or attributing ownership to vehicles. That was novel. I think the County Assembly's star witness elevated jokes to legendary heights. The witness tried to introduce a theory that the governor had employed Edwin Murangiri and Nefat Kinyua, who he claimed were the governor's relatives. We've shown there was no evidence they were, and as a matter of fact, they were not. It then turned out that these people were employed in 2017 and 2016 respectively, that the governor employed them in the county in advance of her election as governor. I'm just wondering, good people, what do this protect Senate to be? Can somebody in good conscience sustain this case to the wire, as the council of the assembly have done? Dr. Gitonga Jeremiah Ruturi came to this house. I would invite you to look at the affidavit of that witness, but I'll not read it because of time. The very first paragraph of that witness, the very first paragraph, when his memory is still clearest, he told the advocate drafting his affidavit that he is a director of IV Healthcare. When he stood here and was told to introduce himself, he took an oath before this Senate, and from his mouth perjured himself on oath, saying, I am a director of IV Healthcare. Learned Counsel Dr. Okubasu, exercising that power in the book of Proverbs chapter 17, confronted him in cross-examination. He asked him, if this Senate were to take the liberty and call a Form CR12 from the company's registry, would you appear on that CR12 as a director of IV Healthcare? He stuttered, and in that moment spoke about 3 other companies, completely not mentioned in that affidavit. It turned out he was not a director of IV Healthcare. At paragraph 8 of his affidavit, which was read to him, he says that he was surprised upon arrival in China that the delegation that the governor had recommended to IV Healthcare were not a technical team. When he arrived in China, he learned that. It turned out the man never went to China. He stuttered. Honorable Mugambi Rendekiri Murwidania will be remembered by this House as a leader who was captured on video supporting the most sexually offensive remarks against a woman in the 21st century before the country's Senate, asserted by another leader, Mpuri Aburi, the honorable member. These are the people that we have been told have mounted a convincing case. Let's face it. I used to be taught, Mr. Speaker, sir, that no one makes good deals with bad guys. Can you get credible evidence from these most incredible fellow citizens? Is it possible? Allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir, to now deal with the case, the charges presented by the County Assembly before this House. From the very outset, allow me to very humbly invite the honorable senators to administer a caution to themselves individually as you consider this matter. Individual senators, please caution yourself that the case of the County Assembly cannot be permitted to mutate from the charges that were prosecuted at the County Assembly. It cannot be allowed. Rule 19 of the 5th schedule of the standing orders, which provides for the procedure of the impeachment process before the whole House, as we are doing now, prescribes that in presenting its evidence, the Assembly shall not introduce any new evidence that was not a part of the allegations against the governor by the County Assembly, as forwarded by the Speaker of the County Assembly to the Speaker of the Senate. This case cannot be allowed to mutate. There must be logic behind this. The logic is there must be definitiveness on what the governor is responding to. Allow me to deal with counts 1 and 5 together. These counts are found in the Assembly's documents, Volume 1. Count 1 has 4 specific allegations. Allegation number 1, that the governor has violated certain provisions of the Constitution and the law, they are specified there, I'll not read them, by engagement, connivance, and or complicity in the following. First, honorable senators, allow me to tell you this charge is duplex. It is a defective charge. If not for anything else, Mr. Speaker, sir, this means that you must discourage this form of drafting. It is poor drafting. The governor has to elect whether she is going to defend herself against engaging in those acts, against conniving in those acts, or against complicity in those acts. In law, that's an impossible task. What the Senate, my apologies, what the County Assembly has done is to cast a wide net, in the words of the fishing vocabulary, in the hope that it may catch crabs, fish, and perhaps some snakes, so that you say, anyway, we may have grabbed a lot of snakes, but there's one fish, so vote for this fish. It's a poor way of dealing with a case of this nature. A case of this nature requires military precision in the charges. Be that as it may, the governor is accused of doing those things in the form of embezzlement of county funds through the governor's sisters, Rose Kenya Gwantai and Miriam Gwantai, brother Kenneth Gwantai Muragiri, brother-in-law Nefat Kinywa, and nephew to the governor's husband, Edwin Mutuma Muragiri, all of whom are now collectively referred to as the governor's relatives, period. So the governor comes to this court and says, no, I want to give you evidence to show that I have not embezzled any funds through these people. How will I do this? I will give you vouchers to show what each of these people is being paid for. That is a sufficient answer to this charge. You are then told, no, he has not accounted for 70 million shillings. Honorable Senators, where is the charge for failure to account for 70 million shillings that the governor is supposed to respond to in that form? Number two, where is the charge of failure to account for 78 million shillings? Because if that charge came as such, then the governor would have been under an obligation to secure her finance people, to give her material in respect of all the 78 million. Then we can interrogate the material one by one. Is this credible? Is this not credible? And so forth. Once we have supplied that, we must show a causal connection between that money and the person of the governor. The governor was taken through a fairly humiliating exercise. She was reduced to a clerical officer. You are senators, you are state officers, you get impressed. You know the clerical process of dealing with a single imprest at a time. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you are personally to be held responsible for the imprest process in this house, would you possibly transact the business of this house? That is a matter this house must reflect on in your private moment before you take a vote. Even the clerk, who is the administrative head of this house, if he was told to personally explain each of the individual signatures in every signature of 100 vouchers, would that be possible? Allow me to tell you why this charge is premature. An audit process presents a different environment, because an audit process, the auditor comes, receives documents, reviews them, asks questions, people go back to the drawing board, review their own material, come back. The whole process takes time until we have a report. Now here is where you file documents and you are bound by those documents. There's no feedback. So in this case, we have no audit report. The county assembly should have been patient for the auditor to audit these accounts, raise specific audit queries, fail to get answers to those audit queries, then mount a case based on the specific audit queries that are not answered. What has happened by counsel for the assembly before you is a sad commentary on how not to prosecute an impeachment motion. The governor is accused.
Counsel, you have 15 minutes.
That's okay, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you so much. The governor is accused of withdrawing county funds under the guise of payment for various supplies by the governor's relatives, yet they, the governor's relatives, are ineligible to tender for or supply any goods or services to the county. Counsel for the assembly, in cross-examining the governor, completely misled this house, and I was saddened because counsel have a duty of candor. Despite our sectarian interests, counsel have a duty of candor. When you retire, honorable senators, look at volume 2 of the county assembly's documents. When you look at volume 2 of the county assembly's documents, you will discover that from page 1 to page 29, from page 1 to page 29 is a letter by Thuranira Salesio Mutuma to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and some attachments. That is crucial, honorable senators. Among those attachments is a table prepared by the said Salesio, running from page 4 to page 14. Page 4 to page 14 is not an IFMIS extract. Page 4 to page 14 is a table prepared in Word format, in Microsoft Word format by Salesio. That's important because that question was put to the Senator as if this is an IFMIS extract. It is in this table, good senators, that at page 6, in row number 4, you will find an entry called hospital supplies. This is Salesio writing those words. It is not IFMIS in which this is entered. It is Salesio. A person who was not brought here, we were wondering whether he's a real human being or he could just be taking care of his goats somewhere. At page 11, in row 3, you will find hospital supplies, another entered record by Salesio, not from the IFMIS. The governor's case before you is this, that if you proceed to page 17 to 29, where the IFMIS extract is, and you look at the corresponding voucher numbers to these things Salesio has written, you will find in the IFMIS extract, these are hospitality supplies. That's the governor's case before you. So the impression created by my learned colleague, Dr. Mudomi Thiankolu, that this entry hospital supplies is an entry made by the county staff in IFMIS is a pure lie, sadly from council. When you continue looking at those charges, I'm more interested in count 1 because the other counts, they are the kind of counts that I can say fall on their own weight. But this one here, somebody tried to point at invoices in a manner that was rather frustrating for anyone who understands this process. In fact, when I sat where I was sitting preparing my submissions, because I was not in this house, I presumed that either council for the assembly did not understand the impress system of government. Fortunately for us, this Senate works on impress systems. Count C, sorry, allegation C. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, before I forget. So the charge here is making various supplies, and that's why we supply only vouchers that show you what these payments are for. They are not for supplies. They are for particular recurrent expenses, that's all. So we are not accounting for 78 million shillings. We are just responding to this allegation. Thirdly, we are accused of paying full salary and benefits. In fact, those vouchers and those IFMIS entries are only relevant in respect to allegations A and B. When it comes to C, I have already mentioned to you that these payments were made pursuant to a court order. The lesser I say about that, the better. Count D says diversion or misuse of county resources, including funds or motor vehicles, to run the governor's private entity. You asked yourselves, which motor vehicle? You are told no. Go to the affidavit of police constable. You'll get it there. A very strange way of identifying a motor vehicle. I'm open to learning. I was not willing to learn that one. Allow me to demonstrate. Sorry. The Speaker, do I understand I have 10 minutes? Thank you so much. The governor was accused of nepotism and related unethical practices. Before I argue that, when counsel for the county assembly, Mr. Ngwele, stood here and told you that they have proved that Kathure Rukania is among those who are paid money that's not accounted for, I asked myself, look at the 39 allegations before you, 39, and point out to me where the name Kathure Rukania appears, even appears in the 39 allegations. so that the governor can now take the task of explaining him. The County Assembly has taken a strange stance before this assembly. I'm saddened if this is the trajectory of impeachment. Charge 2 is about nepotism and related charges. One of the claims here is that the governors send her unqualified technical team to China. Even when the county assembly witnesses are given their own documents saying the purpose of this trip or this request for clearance was to prepare and guide on the visit. They will express words. They insisted that no, ignore those words in their own documents. They were shown the invitation letter to China at page 79 of volume 2 of the assembly documents. They were asked, show us which part of this invitation is inviting technical cancer experts. They were unable to show it, but they have come here in closing submissions to insist that that was the nature of the invitation. It is a rule of ethics in trial advocacy that an advocate must never submit outside the evidence. Counsel for the assembly have breached that rule of ethics. They have said that the governor misrepresented to the Minister of Devolution that these were technical people. They are told, okay, these people are said in a letter dated 29th May 2023 to be technical staff. Who is technical staff? Isn't the governor's security a technical security staff? Isn't the governor's PA a technical administrative staff? Where was that word technical staff defined as a term of art? They can't show you. Then they say, we ask them, okay, the next week, the same county government writes the Minister of Devolution specifying these people's names and their designation, which you confirm is correct. So if they intended to mislead, where are they now clearly spelling out these people's designation before these people travel? They can't answer, but in their final submission, they still insist there was misrepresentation, a poor way of advancing the jurisprudence on impeachment. You'll be told this nepotism is in the engagement and employment of Edwin Mutuma Murangiri, a nephew to the governor. I've spoken about that. The lesser I say about it, the better. Nefat Kinyua, the governor's brother-in-law, in public knowledge. I mean, what kind of behavior is this? Assigning diplomatic duties. You'll be told the evidence that diplomatic duties were assigned is in a Facebook post. You are told, okay, read that Facebook post. Where does it assign diplomatic duties to the governor's relatives? It is not there. It's those pictures you see there. If you look at them carefully, they are speaking. Those pictures are speaking about diplomatic duties. Surely, a Senate to be engaged in that, I was a little embarrassed. That's 5 minutes. That's okay. Bullying, vilification, demeaning other leaders. We have shown what those leaders have done to the governor. The less I say about it, the better. They actually dared and threw the first stone when they had sinned more. Illegal appointments, I'll talk about this because this is statutory and I have an obligation to guide this Senate on the law. I will refer this Senate to section 64 of the County Government Act. It says, acting appointments shall be made only by the lawful appointing authority and for a specified period. It then says, nothing in this section, nothing that previous section has said, shall prevent a public officer, like the governor here, like the county secretary, those are public officers, from deploying another officer to perform the duties vested in another office during temporary absence, during a vacance that office. You will listen to the case of the county assembly. They will keep quiet on section 64, subsection 4, so as if it does not exist. But let's move just further, senators. Subsection 5 says, if it comes to the attention of the County Public Service Board that a public officer has purportedly made an acting appointment, delegation, or deployment, as the case may be, contrary to the provisions of this section, the County Public Service Board shall take necessary corrective action. This is something that the law prescribes its own procedure of remedying. Why would we use a sledgehammer of an impeachment when the law actually prescribes a lesser restrictive measure that can solve the problem? That's what the County Assembly has engaged you in. Naming a public road after the husband. Show us the road. Oh, let's go to Facebook. You'll find the... Surely, Senate has been engaged in that argument. I thought they would drop it in their final argument. Council stood here and insisted, we have produced compelling evidence in a Facebook post. That's elevating jokes to new heights. Contempt of the Assembly. 1, tasked to explain where that offense is found in statute. The witness, of course, stuttered. The governor has contextualized all her responses to the County Assembly. May I just inform this Senate? You have summoned the governors here who have said, let us go to court and interpret the scope of your powers as Senate to invite us, to interrogate us. And you have engaged them in court. That is development of our law. That is not contempt of the Assembly. The governor ought to be praised. Is this governor a peacemaker? You saw her with MCS, launching projects in their wards, giving them the opportunity to shine by being the ones who read those projects. You are politicians. You know what that means in terms of dignifying and improving the stature of those MCS. I say, true to her word, this governor is a foremost peacemaker. It matters not whether she shall be brought here 100 times. You cannot victimize her because those who torment her are tireless in their torments against her. I beseech you, senators, to vote against each of these charges overwhelmingly in the interest of your individual and collective conscience. I rest the governor's case.
Senator Okiya Mutata, kindly take your seat. Take your seat, Senator Muma. Honorable Senators, ladies and gentlemen, following the conclusion of the closing remarks by the Counsel for the County Assembly and that of the Governor, Rule 27 of the Rules of Procedure when considering the proposed removal of Governor in plenary provides as follows: that the Senate shall proceed into a camera session to deliberate on the issues raised. I now therefore direct that all members of public, including the media, to withdraw from the galleries and any form of broadcast from the chamber to cease forthwith. The camera session will be held for only 10 minutes, after which the open session will resume as per the hearing program that has been circulated. Specifically, the open session will resume at exactly 10 p.m. Once we resume, the parties will be allowed to walk into the chamber and take their space. Members of public will be allowed to walk into the chamber. Media will be allowed back to the chamber. That is at exactly 10 p.m. Now, upon resumption of the open session, a supplementary order paper will be circulated. The Senate Majority Leader will give a notice of motion to facilitate debate. Debate will then ensue on the motion in the usual manner. And at the conclusion thereof, the Honorable Her Excellency Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County, will be given an opportunity to be heard. Thereafter, the Senate we'll proceed to vote on each of the impeachable charges. That is the direction of the chair. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of the hearing of the motion for the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. Just a recap of what was happening for the past 2 days. The Senate was considering the motion for the removal from office by impeachment of one Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor for Meru County. And the County Assembly of Meru did adduce the evidence rule for witnesses. Among them was one of the people that were sent on compulsory leave by the county government of Meru. There is also the MP for Bori constituency, Honorable Mugambi Rindekiri, and Honorable Karia Evans Mawera, the MCA, was moving the motion. And there was Jeremiah Gitonga. And then the Council of Governors, the county governor rather, had 4 witnesses also, Nicholas Kinyua Josephat, Andrian Karachia, Dixon Munene, as well as herself. And there were a lot of issues for consideration that arose, among them the infamous records, the per diems, the evidence on WhatsApp, the oathing by Jurincheke Council of Elders, the identity of the motor vehicles, the videos, the vilification, as well as a petition by one Mr. Salesio. And as for now, the Senate now has retreated and they will consider that motion and make a determination of the same. Thank you.